Welcome to Create If Writing, the podcast for writers and creatives dealing with the passion and the practice behind making good art. I'm Kirsten Oliphant, your host, and you can find more at createifwriting.com. Hey everyone, welcome to the episode where I talk to myself. Always a little bit awkward, but I've got my mug of coffee here and I'm ready to go. Few business things before I dive into what we're going to talk about today, which is ads and authenticity. And I'm super excited. But I wanted to say, first of all, that I actually kind of this whole time have been recording another podcast as well, which is totally insane. I know. And no, I don't sleep. And the other podcast is for blogger2business.com. And if you head over there, you should be able to find the podcast there by the time you're listening to this. But I've been recording that for a couple months. It is focused on tools for growing your blog and your social media presence. So it's similar to this, but also really different because it's focused more towards straight up bloggers who also might be writers, who also might create other things, but it's about blogging and the tools to do that. So if you head over there, you can find some interviews, some of the same people that have been here. I talked with Paula Rollo there as well about rebranding. She talked here in one of my episodes about blogging intentionally. And I got to talk with Blog Tyrant, was one of my huge people that I was so excited to talk to because as a blogger for years, you have these people you really look up to and I'm getting to talk to them and it's great. So I would love it if you head over there if you're a blogger and want some extra stuff just focused on blogging and social media and that kind of thing. That's a great place. Again, that's Blogger2Business, and that's the number 2, blogger2business.com. So a couple more quick things. I want to let you know that if you are starting a blog or if you're looking for a new host or if you're looking to actually self-host, which means that you're owning your content, like moving off of blogger.com or moving away from wordpress.com to doing like a wordpress.org site, and you need a host. I have been using Bluehost for 2 years now. Super happy, great service. If you want to head over there, the prices for hosting start at like $3.95 a month. So you can go to createifwriting.com/Bluehost. That's an affiliate link, no extra cost to you, helps support the show. And again, I wouldn't tell you if I weren't actually very happy with them. I also am so thankful for all of you guys who are listening and the people who are tweeting at me and commenting and sending me emails. It's great to get to hear from you. So if you are listening, I would love it if you subscribe. I would love it if you leave a review wherever it is you're listening. And you can be listening through iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud or even just straight up through the blog. And if you want even more interaction, you can join the Facebook community, and I'll leave the link for that in the show notes, which you can find at createifwriting.com/009. Today, I actually took questions from the Facebook group and a couple questions from another group that I'm in as well. So I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. That may be something we have to talk about one of these times, maybe the next time. But today I want to talk about ads and authenticity. So we're going to start out with ads, and Jenna had a question in the Facebook community, and her blog, if you want to go check it out, is gleefulgourmand.com. I'll leave the link in the show notes, and she talks about food. It's not exactly a food blog where it's like recipe creation, but she is an amazing writer and writes about food, which is fabulous and really fun. So if you like food and you want something a little bit different than the straight up normal food blogger, head over there for that. I'll leave the link. She asked about ads, and I don't remember her specific question because then I got distracted and started answering maybe her question, maybe the question she didn't know she was asking, or maybe something different altogether. But she was asking when is the right time to start to have ads, and kind of how do you do that and when should you do that? And that is a great question, and many people may be wondering that. So I want to dive in right now and talk about kind of two main ways you can do ads. Now, I'm not talking sponsored posts. I'm talking straight up ads on your blog. And there are two main ways that you can do that. So the first way that you can do ads is through an ad network or something like Google AdSense. So there are a lot of ad networks out there. One of the main ones that a lot of bloggers use is Blogher, not Blogger, Blogher. And I was one of the very first people that was on the ad network. And I remember it was amazing because I had like no page views, and I was totally going by the Blogger analytics, which are always off. So if you are on Blogger and you're going by those analytics, like how many views they say each of your post gets, it's wrong. I'm so sorry to tell you. but it is. You got to go by something like Google Analytics that doesn't count like the weird bots and things that I don't even understand, but they're not real and they get counted. And so those aren't real page views. So in any case, I had very few page views at all. And I was still making, like something like $30 or $40 a month from Blogher, which was great for having no views. And I didn't really care. I was like, cool, $40. I'm going to go buy $40 worth of coffee. Probably what I did. But as I stayed with them, I got bigger, but so did their network, and they became kind of huge. But because it was so huge, I went from getting like $40 a month to getting $40 every 2 months, which made very little sense to me because I had grown enormously. So I ended up leaving Blogher because that also meant they had some restrictions I didn't like as well about what you could post and whatnot. You couldn't post competing things. And I think it's changed a bit. But in any case, that's one of the big networks that people use and you have to apply. There's also some people I polled a lot of people in these Facebook groups that I'm in. Some people use AdThrive. I use Burst Media. There are a couple others that people use, but you can use an ad network. Google AdSense is probably the most basic way to start. And you can pretty easily set that up and kind of get the HTML code for a widget and put that over in your sidebar, put it at the bottom of your post, the bottom of your page, the top of your page, kind of anywhere. And they, you can opt in or out of things. Like you can opt out of like religious or political or, adult kind of ads so that you can have a little bit of control on what goes in those ad spots, but they kind of change and shift. So those are the main types of network ads. And then there are also sponsored spots. And I really kind of thought these were not as popular, but I talked to some bloggers who really do still use them. And these sponsored spots are basically like you're selling ad space on your blog in the sidebar or other places, but mainly the sidebar to other bloggers, and they will pay you per month. There are sites like Passion Fruit where you can set that up and you pay them like a monthly fee. It's pretty low. I think it's like $5, $6 a month. And then you can charge ad space. And a lot of blogs, it's something like, they'll start at like, $5 a month for like a little button over in the sidebar of their blog. So that's another kind of option is the sponsorship. And I really thought this had died out a lot. I stopped kind of doing that. I never use Passion Fruit. Some people just do PayPal and work it out with the people. And there's some other ways that you can handle that. But I realized, I think when I started checking my analytics more, that people were not really clicking through to, I had a couple. The other thing people do is they have those sponsored spots and then they trade. So like for free, I would have your button and you would have mine on your blog in the sidebar. And so I had done that with a few friends and I realized like nobody was getting traffic. And so I kind of stopped doing that. And I noticed a lot of bloggers stopped doing that. But I found in these Facebook groups that a lot of people are still doing that and are very happy with the results. So it kind of depends on maybe the blogging community that you're in or, I don't know, maybe the type of blog, maybe certain types of blogs get better click-throughs. So I want to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of doing these and when you might want to do either one of these. So there's kind of two schools of thought on when you should have ads on your blog. And this is assuming you want to have ads on your blog. And I'll get to why some people don't in a little bit. But if you're going to have ads on your blog, some people choose not to have ads until they have an audience. So if you remember, if you've listened to Paula, when I interviewed her on intentional blogging, she talked about how she built up her page views before she went ahead and had ads. So that was kind of her desire. So that was episode 5. So you can find that createifwriting.com/005. So she talked about how she spent a few months building up her page views and then put ads in. And that's kind of the way she chose to do it. I kind of subscribe to a different school of thought, which is I would rather have ads from the beginning so that it's not a surprise. Because sometimes when people are used to your blog looking a certain way and then all of a sudden you change something, people can get kind of ornery about it. And I don't know if any of you guys ever have had that happen where you change your header or you change your font or you change something and you get all these emails from people like, hey, why'd you change that? And that they sound like that if they were talking, I'm sure. But people just get upset. And so I would rather, for me, I made the choice very early on before I even was making any money, to go ahead and have that on there because why not? And then if you do become huge, you've already got it set up. You already have those things in place so that, say somebody enormous finds one of your blog posts and shares it and you get, 100,000 hits like over a little period. And, with CPMs, I'm not actually sure what you'd get, but wouldn't you rather already have the ad in place? I feel like, why not? So that was kind of my school of thought is I would rather have it there than surprise people with that change. So that was my choice. choice. And I absolutely don't think there's anything wrong with Paula's choice either, because you really aren't making any money before you have page views, especially with ads. And so for a long time, actually, last year, I would say, I think maybe January to May, I took all the ads off my site because I went through and looked, and I think I had made something like $10 over, like a course of a couple months, because, you have to get so many hundreds or thousands or millions of page views to actually get money that I felt like it was such a waste of my valuable real estate in my sidebar. And you really should think of your sidebar as real estate. That's very important. So I was giving up all the space to these ads and they weren't bringing any revenue in. So that was something I did away with. And then I'm really glad I put them back on, because I did have kind of one of those situations where in November, I did a Thanksgiving roundup post. And I guess I linked to somebody maybe who is really I had a huge Pinterest following that I didn't intend to. I just found a recipe and really liked it. So I linked to her with attribution and all the stuff you're supposed to do. And I guess she pinned it. And all of a sudden I was getting way more traffic than I had gotten before. And I got a pretty nice ad check that month for the first time. So I was really glad I had put them back in place, but I did take them away for a while when they weren't making me any money. So there are two kind of things to think about, whether you want to have the ads before you have the page views or after you have the page views. Another thing about sponsored spots, it may not just be bloggers. I do have a spot right now on my personal blog, KirstenOliphant.com, and it's an ad from a company, and it's about coupons. And I don't talk as much about deals as I did at one time. I went through a crazy coupon period, and somebody contacted me from, I think it's coupons.com, and so they wanted to pay me per year, and so I gave them a price that I felt was fair. And they agreed. And so I have that ad sort of set aside in my sidebar, which is another way you can do it. So sometimes you may actually have a company contact you directly. And when it comes to pricing those, what I always kind of did was go around to some of the bloggers who are selling the sponsored spots. And they will often give, here's how many page views I have and here's how much it is for an ad. So that's a good way to price is to just kind of do what other people are doing. And, kind of see what happens. And the other thing, if the company, I think the spot I have sold, it's running out next month. And so my page views have gone up 80% in the last year. And so I'm going to give them a much larger number. And if they don't take it, that's fine, because I'm happy to not have them taking up that space. But if they want that space, why not ask them for what I'd really like? One more thing, actually, I wrote down I wanted to talk about. If you're going to do one of the sponsored spots where you're going to have a button on somebody's blog, I want to highly, highly, highly recommend that you either get someone who can to design an awesome, eye-catching, visually appealing button for you. You maybe already have that for your header, but usually in the sidebar of blogs, it's going to be like a square. They'll have a particular size. And you want that to be visible. You want it to be eye-catching, and you want it to be something that attracts the readers for that type of blog also. So if you are placing that ad on a particular type of site, look at that site's aesthetics. So say, for example, you want to buy a space on something that's very clean and modern and fresh and, very much about design, but you tend to really like things that are kind of the opposite. Maybe they're really bright and funky and silly and fun. That could really stand out on that kind of blog where everything is more muted and grayed. But at the same time, if the readers are there because they like that aesthetic, they may not click through to your blog. Even if they notice your ad, they may be like, that's ugly in this beautiful space where everything is white. So that's something to think about, is you want to have a great design. And also, you really want to have a particular page that you have them land on. You may not want them to land right on your blog's homepage. You may want to have them land on your About Me page, or perhaps you want to create a landing page. And if you don't know what a landing page is, I guess I would describe it as a page that has a particular purpose. And it's a page that's designed for people who are just coming into your blog, they're just landing there, i.e. landing pages. So they're just landing there. You want to keep them there. Perhaps you want to show them some of the books that you've written. Perhaps you want to share your favorite blog posts, or maybe you want to get them to sign up for your email list, which I think is a great thing. If you heard the last time I talked to myself about email lists. So you may want to consider, if you are going to pay to have your blog, with a button at someone else's page, that you have a landing page set up so they're not just landing on your home blog page. So that's something smart to think about. So all this leads us into the question of authenticity, which Andy asked about in another Facebook group that I'm in, and I'll leave a link to her as well, but she's at AndyLit on Twitter and has a great website. And speaking of email lists, her email list is stellar. If you sign up, you get, I think it's like 15 days of grammar tips. Okay, I don't know if that sounds boring to you because sometimes grammar has that bad connotation, but I signed up and I can tell you, like, I looked forward to reading them. They're very simple, very common sense, but reminders I needed after being out of school for years now. So anyway, I will link to her in the show notes as well. But she was asking about growing your platform and how do you do that in a way that you feel authentic? And I think that ties really into ads as well. So I want to start talking about authenticity with ads and then kind of move into authenticity with your platform. So some bloggers are under the impression that having ads on your blog is selling out. Okay. And that's, really common, especially if it's somebody just starting out or hasn't done ads before. So moving from no ads to ads, it can sometimes feel like selling out as you're moving there. And I want to talk about why it's not selling out. First of all, even if you are on a free site and all that kind of thing, you do still have costs to run a blog. Maybe you're not thinking about those costs. Maybe you're not thinking about the cost per month to have Wi-Fi in your house because you'd have it anyway. Maybe you aren't thinking about some of the other costs like your time. Maybe you don't care, but there are costs to running a blog. And the longer I've been blogging, the more costs I have. So for example, I pay for hosting every year. I pay to register my .com and a couple other .coms that I've bought. I have, let's see, what else have I paid for? I paid for some classes. I pay for an upgrade to the image editing that I currently use, which is PicMonkey. And so you can do that for free, but I think it's like $20 a year or something low like that, where you can get extra fonts and things like that. So I do have costs. They're not huge, I would say, but I would guess they're around $100 a month. I also actually sponsor a child through Compassion International, and I count that as my sort of tithe that goes on the same credit card that my blogging expenses go to. And several times a year I go to blogging conferences. Anyway, yeah, clearly the longer I'm blogging, the more expenses I have. When you're thinking of those expenses, having ads on your site, it's not selling out, it's paying to keep the lights on. And it is. I mean, at the very basic, I want to break even. I want to cover the costs. Now, my long-term desire is to make more money. Now, that may not come through ads. Maybe that comes through selling my books, which, that would be my dream. I'm a writer. But if it comes through sort of passive income of just having this blog and having great content and having people read it, hey, that's great too. So for me, if you're having that issue with feeling like ads are selling out, I want you to first think about the fact that there is a cost for what you're doing, and maybe you don't care, but especially if your costs are going up, you should care and just at least want to kind of cover those costs. The other thing to think about is some people have different goals, and I keep referencing Paula in our interview about blogging intentionally, but that's kind of what comes to mind. And she talked about how she changed from wanting to blog just for fun to wanting to blog to help her family get out of the 2-bedroom apartment they were in and, buy a house. And she had some really big goals early on. So you may be blogging to support your family or supplement an income. And in that case, you're definitely thinking about your blog as a business. And as a business, it should be making you money. So that's another kind of thing to think about is what are your goals? So ads may not be right for you. It doesn't mean you're selling out if you do them. I really don't think that it does just to have ads, but I do think you have to think about what your goals are for your blog and why. For example, I have decided on the creative writing blog, I'm not going to write sponsored posts. That's not ads, but that's another stream of revenue you can have. Whereas on my personal blog, KirstenOliphant.com, I do write sponsored posts. Now, there was a time that I stopped writing sponsored posts, kind of like I took the ads off my blog, not because the sponsored posts weren't financially good, because they actually were, but I started to feel icky about them. So this brings me to what I want to call the smarmy test. That's one of my favorite words. And I want you to think about this when you're dealing with ads or any kind of thing with growth or money in your blog. Does it make you feel smarmy? Does it make you feel icky inside when you do something? And if it does, then don't do it. So if that is having ads at all on your blog and it makes you feel smarmy, don't have ads on your blog. If sponsored posts make you feel smarmy, don't have sponsored posts on your blog. If having a blog at all makes you feel smarmy, then maybe you should get off the internet and not have a blog or make it private or just write it for you. You can totally do that. But I think that's the test that you should apply all things to. And it may change through time. It may, like for me, I stopped the sponsored posts, like I said, and then there was a time where I felt like after I'd taken enough time off, I wanted to come back, but the time off had given me the clarity that there was only a certain type I wanted to take. And I wanted to be a little bit more stringent as to what posts I actually agreed to do. And again, I don't want to do them on the creativewriting.com. I only have the sponsored posts on kirstenoliphant.com, but I have a lot more affiliate links on creativewriting.com, not necessarily on purpose, but I did set it up that way. So it's not an ad-free blog. It does have ads on it, but they're a different kind of ad. And that was just a decision that I made. So you need to think about what your goals are. You need to run things through the smarmy test and make sure you don't feel smarmy about it, because you do want to be authentic. And a lot of times I think that does bleed through and your audience can feel it, but sometimes they can't. I mean, for sure, there may be some posts I wrote that I felt smarmy about and other people liked them and didn't notice. But at a certain time, I know that there are blogs I've been to and then I hadn't visited for a while, and then I came back and there were so many changes, and maybe it didn't feel inauthentic, but maybe I didn't like the changes, and the kinds of ads they had or the way they had set their blog up, it didn't feel the same to me. It didn't have the same sort of vibe that I used to like. So you do have to think about the fact that ads or sponsored posts or any form of monetization, really, it may change the way your blog feels to people. So, something I was going to save for later, but I'll just say it now. You're always going to have haters, no matter what you do, whether you have ads, don't have ads, add ads, take ads away, write sponsored posts, don't write them. Whatever it is that you do, you're going to have people that don't like it. You're going to have people that complain about what you're doing. So just know that and don't make your decision solely based on that. Now, if you have a close relationship with your audience and everybody is telling you not to do something and they don't like a change, then it's time to listen. You may have haters all the time, but when you do hear from your readers, it's good to take a beat and think about what they say and see if there is some truth there or something good that they're recommending. Moving from thinking about ads and authenticity, I want to talk about growing your platform and authenticity. Kind of the similar thing. I think people have a similar issue with this. It's a different thing than ads, but it's the same kind of thing. It often makes people feel icky, and there really are some icky ways to grow your audience. Example, when you pay for Twitter followers. And yes, if you didn't know, you can do that. Don't do it. You can also pay for all kinds of things. Like you'll find them, like people have started following me on Twitter that are like, pay $20 for 10,000 Twitter followers. So they exist. They'll find you. They may even email you. I've gotten some of those emails. And that's just really not a good way to grow any of your lists. It's not a good way to grow a following because you're not actually growing people who care about what you're doing. For example, and in episode 7, which is creativewriting.com/007, I talked with Chad R. Allen, and he described, your email list that is effective as being a warm list, which means that you have people who care what you're writing about. And I can guarantee that if you pay for followers in that way, whether it's Twitter or somewhere else, first of all, you could get banned from Twitter, but also you're not going to have a warm list. If you buy an email list, you're going to end up having all these people on there, these numbers, and they don't open your thing or they unsubscribe. And if you've ever done a giveaway to get followers, which I have done a couple different times and will continue to do every now and then when I find a good one, but a giveaway, basically you can give away like an Amazon gift card or something like that in exchange for people, or the entry, I guess, comes through people following you on Twitter or liking. Actually, you can't. Facebook has made it illegal or against their rules that you cannot. It's not illegal. The police are not going to get you if you do this, but Facebook will get you. You cannot have one of your, I guess, points of entry for a contest be to like your page on Facebook. So you can't do that anymore. Don't do it. You will not get arrested. You might have the Facebook police after you, and I don't know. I'm now envisioning people in police uniforms that are the Facebook colors. So, okay, back on track, Kiki, back on track. You can't do that. But if you're doing a giveaway, you have to realize that those people also might not stay. So I don't think it's always a bad idea because some of those giveaways give you exposure to people that otherwise might not find your blog or your writing or whatever it is you use that you want them to find. They might not find you otherwise. They might really connect with you. But you also will have a whole lot of people who just want a gift card. So something to think about there. There are inauthentic ways to grow and bad ways to grow your following and grow your list and grow your audience. But growing your audience in and of itself is not inauthentic. It's all about the way you think about it. If you are thinking about numbers of followers and subscribers and your page views just as numbers, you will never win. You're never going to be satisfied. That's my scientific guess there. It's not a guess. You will be. You will be miserable if you're trying to just think about those numbers. However, if you think about those numbers and those followers and those page views, not as numbers, but as people, If you think of them as an audience who want to come and read your work or want to come buy whatever it is that you're selling or want to come be a part of what it is you're doing, that changes everything because it's not just about numbers. It's about connecting with the right audience for what it is you do. So I have to ask you a question. Do you believe in your writing? Do you believe in the product you're selling? Do you believe in whatever it is that you're creating? If the answer to that is yes, then you should have no problem trying to grow your platform. Because platform is really, it's one of those words I think has become kind of ugly from overuse. But your platform is essentially, I want you to think about it in this way. Your platform is really growing the number of people who can connect with that awesome thing it is that you're doing, that you really believe in. So if you really believe in your writing, growing your platform simply means that you believe that your work has value and you want to bring people around so that you can share that value with them. Does that difference make sense? Do you see how that kind of changes things? That totally takes away that smarmy, to get back to the smarmy test, it takes away that smarmy feeling from growing your audience because it's not about numbers. It's about finding the right people to connect with the very important, very powerful, very great work that you are doing, whatever that work is. So you are providing a value to people. That's why you shouldn't feel bad about ads or growing your platform because you're providing a value. And if you have ads on your blog, to get back to that for a second, it doesn't cost people anything for you to have ads on your blog. It doesn't cost them one thing. It is a free and easy way for them to support your blog just by coming to it. You're providing value for free on your blog because your blog is free, right? People aren't paying to get onto it. So people should not be disappointed to find an ad. You're providing free value. It doesn't cost them anything. So connecting on social media or even self-promoting, that's another thing that people struggle with is this idea of self-promoting feels icky. It shouldn't. It needs to stop feeling icky to you because if you believe in what you're doing, then you want to have people come around to read it, to see it, to hear it, to experience it. You want people to have this value that you're providing. You want people to interact with what it is that you're doing. If you really believe in your work, then you will want to share that with people, not just because you want to make $1 bazillion. Although, again, talking about blogging goals, maybe that is your goal. So this may not be your podcast, but if you're creating something that you believe in, then you should want to share that with people because you believe in it and you think that it has some value to add and impart to your audience. So I think it's all about how you think about growing your platform. And again, it gets back to that smarmy test I talked about with ads. Is the choice you're making in terms of how you're promoting yourself, does it feel smarmy to you? Then stop. If it does, if the answer to that question is yes, you shouldn't feel ashamed to share your content because you should believe in your content and believe it has something of value to the audience that you're trying to find. Your audience may not be a stadium. You may not be someone standing on the platform of the Reliance Center here in Houston, although I think it's called something different now. But your audience may not be tens and thousands and hundreds of thousands of fans. Maybe your audience is intimate. Maybe it's a coffee shop and you're sitting there around a coffee shop talking to those people. But you need to realize you have an audience, large or small. You have people who need your words, not somebody else's. They need your words. So I feel a little bit like I'm being that coach and who's just kind of kicking your butt with optimism here. But I really do believe that if you're creating something of value, there is an audience for it. It may be small, it may be large, but growing your platform is nothing more than finding the people who need your word. I hope that really helps. So to end this podcast episode, I want to ask you, do you believe in what it is you're doing? Do you really believe that? I want you to think about that. And if the answer to that is yes, then I want you to rethink platform. I want you to rethink having ads on your site. I want you to rethink the value you are providing to the readers, to your listeners, to your audience. And I think that really does change the way you think about blogging. It changes the way you may think about writing, about ads, about promotion, all of those things. If it gets back down to that question, do you believe in what you're doing? So I'm going to leave you with that for tonight. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Please go check out the show notes at creativewriting.com/009. Also, do check out the new podcast at bloggertobusiness.com. I think they just will have one set up this week and a whole lot more coming soon after. I'm really glad you're here. Please leave a review on iTunes or wherever it is you're listening. Subscribe. Don't miss a week. I'm going to be here every week sharing inspiration and also practical tools for you writers and creative types out there. And I'm really glad you're here.